Hey, welcome back to the channel. That was my wife in the background going, what? Because I said hey and she thought I was talking to her, which usually I am, but in this case I was talking to you, my YouTube channel followers. Right now, as you can tell, I'm laying underneath something and it just happens to be the Rambler. You can see in the back there that it all looks super nice and shiny now, except for obviously this exhaust pipe, which I didn't paint because it'll just burn off. These were those bent trailing arms or whatever you want to call them, and they're all nice and new and fresh and straight, and they're actually galvanized, and they're heavier gauge material, so I'll be able to bash all sorts of stuff with these and they won't bend right away. So that'll be awesome. The wheels are back on, as you can see, right there, and then over there. And hey, Gas Monkey hat. This is actually Alex Laughlin hat from drag racing a couple years back. So shout out to those guys. Yeah, so springs are in. Shout out to Archer's springs in Rotorua. They are awesome. I dropped the springs off Monday afternoon, told them what I wanted. Tuesday morning they said they're all done, do you want us to ship them back to you? It's $30. Well, that's cheaper than me driving over there. I sent them the money. They didn't have the money until Wednesday for sure, because it was a different bank than my bank. But they showed up Wednesday, 10 a.m. in the morning, and they are awesome. I don't know what the car looks like down yet. I've just got them in, and so we're gonna go through that journey together, and then you will either see my excitement or disappointment in I went too low. But I'm not sure that you can actually go too low with an auto. So anyways, I'm just under here spraying some body rejuvenation spray underneath in preparation. I picked up one of those underbody guns, so I'm just hitting this with the zinc chemicals to protect it. As you can see over here, let me flip the camera. As you can see over here, there's a little bit of surface rust coming because these panels are just, this is just like the factory reproduction black paint on there. So I'm hitting that with, I'm scraping it off with this old finger poker here, and then wiping her down, and I'm hitting it with that zinc spray, and then I'm gonna underbody, and I can get the underbody, and with the spray gun that I got, I'll be able to match to that factory spray over there pretty close. It's pretty heavy, so I might have to hit it with 2 coats, but I kind of just want it to look the same. You can see here, remember last time I was talking about doing a gasket episode? Well, we're here. This is it. We're doing it. And I'm just draining the red fluid out of the tranny right here. And as you can see, it's red. And it's quite slippery, which is good. It doesn't smell burnt, which is also good. And it's been sitting in here for a while, and I've wiped all of this. I've wiped it down and everything, and it's still weeping around that gasket, but it's not weeping anywhere else. The puddle is just right here. So I'm fairly confident that we're going to replace this gasket today, put this back up right there, and that whole leaking scenario is going to be over, which will be awesome. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and zip all these off now because it's done draining. This doesn't actually have a drain pan, like a drain plug. So this is the return line from the cooler. So I just back that out. And you got to be super careful with this guy because inside there is this. I put it in one of my Pro Tech Tip boxes so I didn't lose it. There is a really fine copper washer, which is like a tapered for the front of that fitting. and you don't want to damage that. You definitely don't want to lose that, and because I don't know where I'm going to find a new one if I need one. So that's in my handy dandy storage box for later. And so we're going to go ahead, we're going to drop this pan. I don't believe I have a filter for it or a gasket for it. The guy I got the car from had bought a filter and gasket kit. It doesn't look like this. So we're going to pull this off. We're going to compare. Maybe the filter still works, but the pan gasket doesn't. I got some gasket maker. We'll cut that out. We'll put that in. Some goo. And good to go. And we're probably not going to put this oil back in because this container was real dirty when I dumped it in there. But kind of as a rule of thumb, when you're dealing with a transmission that you don't know anything about, don't change the oil, especially the newer transmissions, because you go ahead and you go, oh, I bought a new Honda Civic, it's got an automatic transmission in it. I'm going to go ahead and do a filter and oil change on that, and almost guaranteed within like 3 months of doing that oil change, you're doing a transmission. I don't know what it is, if it's the oil collects all the goo and sediment and that, and then the valve body just says, yeah, I like this heavy, disgusting, gross oil, I'm just gonna, and then you put fresh oil in it, and then it craps to bed like within 3 months. So I'm not a big fan of doing that. If you change the oil all the time, like to the recommended specs, you know, every 60,000 K or whatever it is, you're probably good to go. But when you're buying a used auto, you're just gonna run that and flog it until she's done, because changing that oil, you're probably gonna be just barking up a nasty tree that you don't wanna. So like all this is gonna get cleaned up. The front is all back together. That's all nice and cleaned up. You can see that. So I found this in one of my boxes that was in the car. It's the old ATP maintenance and service part filter kit with third-hand pan gasket. And I looked on the back and it looked awful familiar. It says it's a Ford FMX transmission. Now, I do not have a Ford FMX transmission. I have an AMC transmission. But, so that's the part number B33. Guaranteed, I'm not going to find this in New Zealand here. But, when you look at the filter, compared to the old filter, this is the one from the transmission. Man, do they look the same, don't they? So, I really think that maybe this is a good sign. Where things kind of fall apart is on the actual pan gasket itself here. As you can see, it does not fit. It's real close, but this little indent is the wrong way. It's just not, it's just almost, but not. So that's no good. So this is the one that was in there, and as you can see, it's definitely tired. See, there's some cracking, and it's still soft, which is good, but the cracking really leads me to believe that it's leaking. And as you can see, we're gonna have to go ahead and make a new one. So when I pulled the pan off, this was the filter, and there's not a, like, some of that was from before. Like, there's a little bit of buildup, residue in here, but no like chunks. Definitely not chunks, but I mean, you can tell that there's some metal in that, in the bottom here, which is to be expected with an old transmission. We're gonna go ahead and we'll clean that up. We'll cut a new gasket, and it's always a good idea to wear gloves when you're doing this, because this is like what they would, like Greenpeace would say, like heavy metals, which you probably shouldn't, you know, absorb in your skin. So we're gonna clean this up. We're going to hope for the best, because that's all we can do. I'm really sore right now. This is an aside note, but if you follow my Instagram, RustyBobs204, you'll have seen a picture of me at the gym. And so I started that a week ago yesterday. So today would be 8 days. I'm going with a friend, Igor, and so that's good because he's into the gym, so he keeps me accountable. I'm really sore though. Like my legs here, it's just, man, just can't even bend over today. But that's good, I guess. So today, Saturday, Sunday, I'll go again on Monday. I went a little heavy. I went 5 times. See, I'm paying to go to the gym now. So the problem is that I feel like I need to get my money's worth. So I figured out, I went 5 times this week. It's $16 a week. That's like $3.15 a go. I mean, they're losing money on me because I'm using their shower. I'm definitely in the sauna, and they've got the soap in the shower, and I'm definitely like the 3-pump guy. So they're losing money on me. If I can keep that up 4 or 5 times a week, I'm definitely getting my money. But so we'll see how that goes. We got the valve cover gasket set here, and this one actually says AMC V8 287 and 327. So this should fit because it's even in the right year range, 57 to 66. Comes with new bolt rubbers as well, so we're going to put those in today. That'll go real fast though because those are wing nuts. Those older motors that have you have to adjust the tappets. So they have quick release valve cover sets. So it's just wing nuts on there. So it's probably only leaking because, you know, over time those gaskets get a bit hard. We'll change those out. Clean this all up. So you can see the buildup of cork on here, just from being under pressure those years, and then of course the oil getting passed. And so we'll use a bit of emery cloth to get that off of there. Had a magnet in the bottom to collect all of this stuff, so we'll make sure that goes back in. Wasn't like, you know, overly covered, so that's good. It shifted really nice. Like there was no issue with shifting. It was just the issue of the fact that it was leaking oil all over the place. This is like nasty stuff. Like you definitely don't want to put that in your coffee. So then we got some emery cloth here. We'll need our gasket material. It's Calibre. It must be French. So that'll be good. Almost. One little corner. There we go. Gasket. Now, we'll just peel that back. We can finish these holes. What's that? What do we think about that, people? Think it should work? Just fine. Put a few bolts through there and that'll hold it in place, and we can do a little extra trim on the inside if we want. See how they're nicely holding it in line? You don't got to get super exact as long as it's going to seal. What happens is the cork swells up a bit with the oil and tightens into the space, and works pretty good, lasts quite a while. Make sure we put the magnet back in there. We've got this guy, which we're going to use. We're done with this now, so we're going to throw that in there. We won't throw it into the bin until we know for certain that everything is good. And now we can go and put this back in. How nicely this is cleaned up. I don't think we're going to use any goo on that. I think we're just going to use the gasket itself. Make sure that the bolts are nicely snugged in there. Okay. There's actually not a lot of crud on the transmission itself. Just clean that up. And all the crud stayed on the pan. Done with that. It definitely wasn't like a burnt smell, so that's good. So whilst I was down here, I decided on changing on the old dinosaur juice. And as you can see, I made a big, huge, disastrous mess. So first, I'm just using the same container as my ATF, but I went to take the filter off and I dropped it into here and it splashed everywhere. And then so I went and grabbed the filter that I had found in the back in the trunk, which was brand new. The old scam filter. Everyone thinks they're awesome because they're bright orange, but it's just a color. They're not really that great. I'd prefer to use like a Wix or something like that, but I don't have one, so I'm going to use this Fram. It's a PH25, which is probably the same filter that's on every car from 1964. So they should be readily available. but you want to make sure that you lube up that gasket, and then you want to do this.
Take your hat off, it's going to be in all the juice.
I've been told by my camera personnel that my hat's going to get in all the dinosaur juice here. So I'm going to take it off, so my hair can get into the dinosaur juice instead. You want to make sure that you take the old filter off, and then you make sure that the gasket has come off as well, and that you don't double up that gasket, because that is one recipe for a leak. So this oil I hadn't changed since I got the car, and I haven't run it a whole bunch. It's actually not too bad. It's still slippery and stuff. So, but because I haven't changed it, I'm gonna change it now. And because the car's already up, makes sense, right? I'm gonna put like diesel 1540 in it. Nice, you know, affordable, good quality oil. You definitely, I would absolutely not, under any circumstances, in any way, shape, or form, run a synthetic oil in this engine. You want to find every stinking oil leak from every gasket. You put synthetic through here, and you are gonna just, it'll look like this all the time. And so the oil, there wasn't any like, there's no like metal or anything in the oil. It was actually pretty good. Nice and dark, that's how you know it's in good shape, right? And you want to get the largest wrench that you can to tighten on this. You notice how I'm choking way up on the handle because I don't want to strip this. Just tight enough to seal. So whilst I'm down here, I've got the pan up for the transmission. That filter was like perfect, by the way. So if you've got a 1964 AMC Rambler with the Flash-O-Matic 3-speed transmission, the Ford FMX transmission kit, and FMX is in quotations, the filter does fit the Flash-O-Matic transmission, the gasket does not. So there's a little tip. I'm gonna give you tech tip number 2 on the day. So I zipped off all these bolts for this transmission pan with this stubby air ratchet by AirCat, and that's just a shameless plug there. AirCat makes awesome air tools, and they're really affordable, and they're on Amazon, so they ship like within 2 days. I zipped them all off of that. You definitely want to shy away from using the air tools to put those bolts back in, on account of they're going into aluminum, and you're just setting yourself up for disaster. You grab the old TurboCat 7000 and you zip those on there with 1,000,000 foot-pounds, and you are bound to be doing Healy coils or some catastrophe. So what I like to do is I use this speed tool here, and I just give them a little tweak like that, and you kind of, as you go around, you see, because of the long handle and then the short T on the bottom, I can't over torque that, so I can just give it a little nibble there on each one, and then you know that you're not gonna strip them out, and you want to feel it. You just gotta feel it. Like, you definitely don't want to go too far, because I tell you, fixing stripped out aluminum, you might as well just put your tools down, just go inside, crack a cold one, and drink your sorrows away, because you are just, that is it. It's over. And you just kind of go around and you just kind of keep tweaking on them, just a little bit too much, and you're just asking for it. That's done. Filter's on. that's all. The plug is in. We're basically done down here for now. So I'm gonna clean all this crap up, and we're gonna lower this bad boy down and see what these springs have done. And we're gonna make sure we put oil in it in both the transmission and the engine before we start that up. So this is the first look of the lowered springs. So let's see if that's that. So it's going to settle down a little bit as we go over some bumps and give her a few shakes and wobbles and rolls as the springs kind of work back in. But it's a nice even look on the right along the floor. You can see now the front fender is tucked right into the tire, which is exactly how we want it. And then we've got a bit of a rake to the back, so it's just slightly leaning forward, just ever so much. And that's perfect. The back tires are nicely tucked in there. I think we're going to be pretty happy with this. Doing these valve cover gaskets, the other one was a real pain because it was all covered in hoses and everything that was going on to it. This one wasn't too bad coming in and out, so what they had done, I guess the previous, might have been factory even, they had just filled it up with gasket goo and then squeezed it all out, so I had to dig that all out of here. And then pro tech tip number 3 for the video. These corners have a tendency to go sproing as you're trying to fiddle it into place, because you got to line up the bolts, the studs through these holes, and it's a bit of a thing. So what I like to do is take your old vice grip and you set the distance, and then you just give it just a tiny little tweak there, and that holds the corner nicely. One on each, and you don't really see it. Then you can see this other side here, I had to pull the air cleaner off, and you have to pull the lightning hoses off because they're bolted through there. And these are just got a little wing nut on here, but this one with all these hoses and everything was just a right pain to get in there. But this side here, when you're taking it off, you kind of remember how it comes out the best way, so that when you're putting in the new one, you don't mess up your gasket going in. So this one slides in from the front and then down, and then of course the your lightning hoses get bolted onto there and into the plug. So that's that. These are nice and snug. Hold those back together. Cleaner's on. Hoses are back routed where they were routed before. Put in some ATF. I'm gonna have to get it warm and then check it again, but that's in there. Dinosaur juice is topped up. It's a little bit high, but it's also not in the filter yet. So I'm gonna move that stuff out of the way, and I want to pull it out to actually see it all together, how high it is, and if that's gonna be good. So that's the height now that it's back on its own 4 wheels. Loving it. It's perfect. It's a little bit more aggressive now. Don't even need to change the wheels and tires. It's perfect the way it is. Love it. Wouldn't change it. Definitely have to be careful over speed bumps, but apart from that, nothing wrong with low.